My name is Dave. I'm married to Sally. We live near Stowmarket. We've been married for 30 years. And Sally suffered a brain injury in 2004, which had quite a dramatic effect on not just Sally, of course, but the whole family. In the early days of recovery, Sally was very childlike. She couldn't feed herself, she couldn't look after herself, she couldn't brush her own teeth because she'd lost a lot of control of the left-hand side of her body. And so, specifically with our daughter, her role went from being grumpy teenager to dedicated carer. So she would drive, because by that time she got her driving licence, she would drive to Adam Brooks Hospital every day and make sure that her mother's teeth were brushed and that she actually managed to eat her breakfast. And then over the course of time, that role went from being a dedicated carer back to ultimately being a daughter again. But that's quite a difficult transition going through that, and I think that caused a lot of problems for her. I think the support has actually been remarkably good. I suppose one of the problems to start off with, and I suspect this is a fairly common problem, was actually finding out the information. So where do you go to get the help that you need? Fortunately, we found Headway fairly early on in that process, because Headway in itself is a very good signpost to tell you where to get the help that you need. It also was a question not just of the obvious of supporting Sally in her rehabilitation, but being able to support me, perhaps for some counselling with regard to the feelings of guilt and how I cope with it. In terms of the support that was received, I mean, all of our family were very supportive, which is great, because it's nice to know that you know, I can get the occasional respite because the kids will come or would come and take Sally out, for example. So I didn't have to worry about it then, and I could get on and deal with some of the mundane things that needed dealing with at home. And the same with friends as well, who would come and actually be with Sally when I needed to go elsewhere. The support that we received from the various places, such as Headway and Icanhoe, was absolutely amazing. It was great. I don't know how I would have coped without that support, to be honest. To start off with, obviously, well, perhaps not obviously, but to start off with, some of those issues related to Sally's physical abilities. You know, simple things like, as I say, she couldn't actually brush her own teeth to start with, but working with her rehabilitation team to recover those physical abilities, and then seeing her developing through coping with standard day-to-day things, you know, boiling an egg, making supper, all of which she's had to relearn effectively because she had forgotten how to do it, or she had lost the motor skills that enabled her to do that, and those all had to be relearnt. So a lot of that in the early days was literally coping with it, and I suppose anybody who is a parent will recognise the concept of you have to let your children make their own mistakes. So whether it be riding a bike or going to school for the first time, they have to learn those things for themselves. The temptation always when you're caring for someone is to try and do everything for them. Don't worry, darling, sit there, I'll make you the cup of tea. Because actually sitting there and watching someone, as Sally was when she first started off with, and you see her walking across the kitchen with a kettle full of boiling water, and you think, oh, no, I'm not sure whether I'm really happy with this. But you really have to let it happen, because that's the only way that person will recover those abilities to do it, if you let them do it. If you don't do that, they will forever be in the wheelchair or forever be dependent upon a carer. And that's not what I wanted for Sally. I'm sure it's not what she wanted for herself. No, I think in truth that certainly caused problems over the time since the accident. And it's not just the relationship of husband and wife, or certainly I don't feel it was as far as Sally and I were concerned. It was a relationship of friends as well, because not only had I lost my wife, I'd lost my best friend. And you certainly have problems with that relationship changing, because obviously what one inevitably seeks is a return to what one describes as normality. I want to get back to how it was. But of course the reality is there is no such thing. You never can go back to that point, because everything changes anyway. And so you have to try and cope with that change and move it towards how you would like it to be. So no, of course it wasn't how I wanted it to be to start with. I had someone who was injured both physically and mentally, but then you have to say, well, okay, which bits can we help, which bits can we improve? And then ultimately you have to say, well, then one of the objectives is that we want to try and repair our relationship, because it was broken. It was a broken relationship, but we have been able to repair it.